Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. It is that time of year again. Black Friday, Cyber Monday, holiday shopping is upon us. And it's probably no surprise that consumer spending counts for almost a full 70% of our nation's GDP. And that time of year, from Thanksgiving to Christmas, that is the retailer's Olympics. And at first, this year may feel a little different. Inflation is running high, more and more people are reporting living paycheck to paycheck, and oh yeah, there's that looming recession that we just can't seem to shake. But these things don't seem to be deterring consumers. We just had a record-setting Black Friday with consumers spending over $9 billion in just one day. And even though spending is off to such a strong start, many experts are predicting that inflation will overall have an impact, that over an entire holiday season, we will see lower consumer spending and consumers getting a little bit more frugal. But with such a strong start, maybe that won't be the case. For most people, there is no budget when it comes to holiday gifts. Our mentality is to buy, regardless if we can afford it or not. The thought of paying it off comes after the fact. It's unfortunate because that's usually the spending mentality throughout the year, not just around the holidays. It just gets worse during the holidays. I am a huge fan of knowing what your money is doing, whether that's following a budget or simply tracking your spending. It's when people put blinders on that they really get themselves into trouble. They think, oh, it's just a $20 gift or a $30 gift. What's the big deal? Well, the big deal comes when you do that dozens and dozens of times. All of a sudden, you've spent in excess several $100s or even several thousands of dollars. It is so easy to spend more than anticipated when you don't know what your money is doing. And only 41% of US households follow a budget. And then throw in a holiday season, which really could easily be named shopping season for many people, and a lot of damage can be done to personal and family budgets. Several factors lead to Americans overspending on holiday shopping. Advertising is one of them, and when combined with clever pricing tactics and other marketing techniques, Americans end up paying more for the things they buy. Literally everything is on sale, or they tell you it's on sale, so they trick you into thinking that your purchase is a total score. And everyone around you is buying things left and right, so it just feels like you're doing the same thing. It's almost normal and expected to be spending nonstop. And I know I've said it before, but I'm gonna say it again. Don't buy something simply because it is on sale. If you do that, you aren't really getting a deal, you're just spending extra money that you wouldn't have spent otherwise. Often, how much you spend around the holidays is indicative of how you grew up. If you grew up with parents that spent freely around the holidays, you're likely to do the same. That tradition is likely to continue. It's so ingrained in us that it is a special time of year, a time to be spoiled with gifts. And if we grew up like that, there's that drive to recreate that experience for ourselves as adults, or once you have kids, to definitely recreate it for your kids. For many people, it can be really hard to attach a dollar limit or a ceiling to those nostalgic times. Instead of looking at the budget, they simply ask themselves, how can I make this time special? And while being frugal gets praise in the financial community, nobody really wants to be labeled as frugal during the holiday season. And whether people are looking at you and telling you outright to just loosen up and enjoy spending a little bit, spend on yourself, spend on others, that message is there. It's in the media, it's in the ads, you name it, the message to spend is there. It's like a siren call, and people listen. And if they don't have money set aside for holiday spending or a bit of a cushion in their budget, they tend to turn to credit cards. And that is exactly what we're seeing. As we all know, because we can feel it, prices are rising this year. Inflation has left its mark, and it's causing more people than ever to turn to credit cards. Debt levels, notably, are rising in every single category except for student loans. That pause on repayments and interest has actually allowed some people to make headway on reducing their student loans. But housing debt, including home equity lines of credit, auto loans, credit card debt, and personal debts are all on the rise. A good number of respondents to that Bloomberg study actually said they're using their home equity line of credit to help bridge that gap when their paycheck falls a little short right now. Credit card debt saw the biggest increase in the past 20 years, balances increasing 15% since 2021, putting credit card debt at record high levels. And of course, we all know the dangers of high levels of credit card debt. If you're using credit cards regularly and paying your balance off in full every single month, that's a great use of credit cards. I love credit cards. I love the purchase protection they offer, the rewards programs, and the extra discounts that they get. You can absolutely use credit cards to your advantage. So long as you're paying the balance off in full every single month, they can be a great financial tool. But we are currently in a rising interest rate environment, and that means interest rates on credit cards, those that don't have a fixed rate, is rising. In fact, the average interest rate on credit cards now is over 19%. If you're paying off your card in full every single month, it's no big deal. You're never going to pay interest anyway. But if you carry a credit card balance, as 55% of Americans do, that is an interest rate that is really working hard against you. The other cards worth mentioning are retail credit cards, and these cards do deserve their own mention because they have a couple unique traits about them. And more Americans admit that they are planning on utilizing these store credit cards for their holiday purchases. And just like traditional credit cards, retail credit cards can be fine if used wisely, aka paid off in full every single month, but it is worth noting that the interest rate on retail credit cards is significantly higher than traditional credit cards. In fact, right now, many of these cards have interest rates that exceeds 30%. That is so high. Over the years, 30% has kind of been a kind of unofficial ceiling for credit card rates for most credit card issuers. It's eye-opening to see a bunch of cards go over that number. It's especially interesting when the nation's biggest grocery store chain is one of them. Just this month, nearly half a dozen retailers, including Kroger, Wayfair, Macy's, Bloomingdale's, Shell, ExxonMobil, and Speedway, have raised their maximum APR past the 30% threshold. Again, not a big deal if you're using the card and paying it off in full, but if you're carrying a balance, that is a really, really high interest rate that you cannot outrun. I do have one retail card, it's with Lowe's, and I had to look it up, but the APR actually sits at 27%. It's not really something I worry about because again, I don't carry a balance. We've used this card as we finish our entire basement. We put the entire project on this card, and let me tell you, it has saved thousands of dollars for us. Mostly, I'm not a huge fan of retail cards just because I don't think they offer that much in perks, but there are situations where they make sense. You just want to make sure to pay them off in full. For a little while there, it kind of felt like retail credit cards were falling out of favor. In 2020, 44% of consumers used them, but just 1 year later, in 2021, just 29% of consumers used them. Although I do kind of think the pandemic had an influence here, I think a lot of people who would have otherwise been shopping in the store moved their shopping to the online setting, and when you shop online, these cards really aren't thrown in your face as much, so I think that hurt the signups. But consumers don't seem to be fazed by these sky-high interest rates. Instead, they're opening more and more cards as of late. I'm a little surprised that the interest in store credit cards has rebounded the way it has. It shows that people are looking for whatever help they can find to help them make ends meet in the face of all this inflation. So just a word of caution to anyone using those retail credit cards, their interest rate is much higher than those of traditional credit cards, so you want to make sure to pay that balance off in full every single month. And just in case you're wondering as to why that interest rate is so high on those retail credit cards, there is a reason. It kind of has to be to protect the lender. You see, the whole goal is for the store to be able to offer everyone who comes to the register a credit card, and then to approve as many people as possible. How do you get that approval percentage up? You set the bar lower. It is much easier to get approved for a retail credit card than it is a traditional credit card. They don't care as much about a blemished credit history or a less than optimal credit score. And if you're gonna approve more users who have a less than optimal repayment history, it means you're setting yourself up for greater risk. So they charge a higher percentage to protect their downside. And it's often because of these higher interest rates that consumers end up regretting their choice to get a retail credit card. As a matter of fact, 37% regret getting a retail credit card. But there is good news on the credit card front, and that is that delinquencies are at historic lows. So that means people are still staying current with their payments. But as these credit card balances increase, there is reason to get a bit nervous. I wouldn't get a retail card just to simply get one. Only get one if it truly makes sense for your situation, aka there's a benefit to you. If you're getting it just to put more presents under the Christmas tree, I wouldn't do that. You wouldn't want to be paying for Christmas 6 months from now. It is important to note that the surge in popularity of buy now, pay later services is actually deterring many customers from signing up for retail credit cards. Buy now, pay later certainly played a role in steering some people away from store credit cards, but they don't give you that much extra time to pay off that loan. A store credit card can give you a little bit more extra time. Unfortunately, a whole lot of people around the country are going to need a little more time than usual this holiday season. BNPL services have a quicker repayment schedule, and they usually don't charge interest, although they do charge late fees if consumers miss a payment. I'm still not a huge fan of them, see this video, but they are getting more and more popular. No matter how you look at it, consumers are already carrying a heavy debt burden going into the holiday season. Inflation has made us feel that life is more expensive this year. Being that the holidays kicked off with such strong spending, I think it's foretelling about what's going to happen in the next couple weeks. But keep in mind, the holidays really aren't about seeing how much you can spend or how many gifts you can buy. There is no need to overspend this time of year. There's nothing rewarding about carrying debt for months to come. And I know it's corny, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Try and spend a little less this holiday season and rather just spend time with the people you love and the people you care about. That's really what matters most anyhow. What are your holiday plans? Would you care to share down below? I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I hope you have a good one. Bye.